The energies of our lives is changing. Are you changing with them? Welcome to Awaken and Ascend, a show where we get to experience the transformational teachings and practices of thought leaders and spiritual change makers from around the world to support us in becoming who we came here to be and do what we came here to do. And also to understand the deeper meaning behind and underneath these evolutionary changes. I'm Jennifer Regular, your host, and also known as the Soul Illuminator at Lighting the Path. More about that on my website at lightingthepath.ca. Now, let me introduce you to today's guest. Monty Clayton Ritchings, who is also from British Columbia, is on a mission to help people understand the very basis of our lives is changing as we move closer into Aquarius. He provides concepts and tools to assist people in adapting and thriving in this new energy. Why? This is Monty's favorite question. He is a mystic, a seeker of real truth. As an author, he provides concepts and tools to assist folks in understanding and thriving in this Aquarian energy. Monty has studied and practiced mysticism for over 40 years as he explored the world and beyond. Over his life, he has traveled to many countries to see how others live. Monty is also a dad and a grandpa. Monty, I am so delighted to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, Jennifer. It's great to be here too. It's
And
nice that we both speak British Columbian.
right. For those who don't know, that's in the west coast of Canada. And I am so grateful for all of you that are tuning in to Awaken and Ascend right now. And Monty, I'm really curious about what lit your path. Obviously, you've been on an incredible journey and all around the world and have studied and experienced many different things. And now you get to share these gifts and these experiences with us all. But do you remember that turning point for you that opened you up to the mystical world?
It was kind of a slow path, but it started very early in my life. Like many people in this world that we live in today, I grew up in a very abusive childhood, and I needed to protect myself. And so my psychic side popped out at a very young age. And so I remember I was driving a school bus up in Prince George, and one of my friends come out of one of the other buses, and I'm walking along, and she's whining about her back being sore. So I just reached over and I put my finger right on the spot that her back was sore. And she said, "How did you do that?" And I said, "Because I can read energy. I just look at you. I don't necessarily see it, but I sense it. I can tell where the heat difference is." And I just put my finger on it like that. But where it really started to solidify was I was going to Douglas College in New Westminster. The first year it opened in 1970. And it was in Newsminster. And I was taking a program called Human Development. And it was written by a couple of social workers who were from Mount Royal College in Calgary. And what they taught us was that our whole life, the way our life progresses, is based on our beliefs. What we understand life to be is the way that we operate. And I started spontaneously getting these messages about this, and I start to read people, and I could look at somebody and I could see their core belief hanging out there, and I would understand where they were coming from. And it was really important to me to be able to do that, because I maybe I still am, but I was very much in protective mode. And if I understood how the person operated, I would know how to protect myself in case I had to. So I always was one step ahead of them. So in 1972, I think it was, I took a course called Mind Dynamics. And this helped me to start develop my my metaphysical side. I remember at the introductory meeting of it, the lady that was running it, they do this technique where you visualize a person, try and connect with their energy, and this person has some kind of a health issue. And so the fellow that was sitting beside me had already done the course, and so this woman asked him how to, or if he could pick up what this person's issue was. And I'm waving at her like this, saying, "I know what it is. I know it." She says, "You can't know what it is. You haven't taken the course yet." So this guy puttered around for 5 minutes or whatever. And finally he says, "I don't know what it is. I don't get it." So I put my hand up and I said, "Can I tell you what it is that he has wrong?" And I said, "Certainly." And I said, his kidneys are dead. And she said, "How did you know that?" And I says, "Because as soon as you saw it said his name, I saw his kidneys were black." And she said, "Well, you're right." And so it's just gone on from there. So it's been a progression over my whole life where I've studied with the Rosicrucian order, and I've studied different types of intuitive healing work and so on like this. It has been just a lifelong process through here. So I started writing my first book. I produced it. I wrote it in 2006 and produced it in 2007. That's Embracing the Blend. And then I have four books in that series now, one of which we're going to offer to give away today, or whenever you're seeing that out there out in the world, because I know it's not today. And then I think it was in January of 2020, we're in 2023, so it would have been January of 2021. I was having a conference with Cheryl Brewster from the Intuitive Life, and all of a sudden I get this female voice in my head was just go like this. So when I got finished with Cheryl, I closed my eyes and I went to this voice, and my guardian angel is Rachel. I said, what do you want? And she said, "Get on your computer. We're going to write a book called The Ascender's Return to Grace." So I slid over on the couch, got my computer, and started. So every time I would come over to Vancouver Island, I would have my computer with me, and I'd run up to the computer center up on the ferry there, and because I didn't know where the story was going. I didn't know where the story went until it finished. And now it's actually, I've published 2 books in that series, and I've got book 3 is done in the rough draft.
That's amazing. That is so
Yeah,
amazing, Monty. And I think what you shared there too is a real testament to how natural our gifts and abilities are. And
absolutely.
then all the studying and the training comes just so that we can more deeply understand that and to
Yeah.
be able to use that in the best way to support ourselves and to support others on their journey. And we've been mentioning about the Aquarian energy and the
Yeah.
Aquarian age.
Yeah.
And there was a song about the age of Aquarius decades ago, and now people are talking about, the shift from 3D to 5D and what happened to 4D and what all that really means. So I wonder if you can shed some light on that about the age of Aquarius, how we're
Mhm.
moving into the Aquarian energy and how we know that.
Well, it's interesting, Jennifer. It's neat how the universe works. It was the summer of 1967 that the fifth dimension brought out the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and I counted back, and that is virtually the beginning of the phase, because the phase is 350 years, and so that is exactly when the phase began to move into the cusp for Aquarius. It's so neat how these things happen. It'd be really neat to know the person that wrote that song. I don't know whether the fifth dimension themselves realized what they were doing. But if you notice, one of the things prior to the 1960s, the age of Pisces was about exploring the world with our hands and our minds. And I'm talking about the finite mind. And so if you look at everything that was invented prior to the 1960s, that's exactly what it was. We invented a shovel, we invented a chainsaw, we invented dishwashers, whatever like this. It was to help our hands. After that, the late 1960s, what became the prevalent invention? Computers. And so now we're what 70 years approximately into this growth pattern of what to do with computers. And the challenge that I see that's happening here is that we have about 300 years of the cusp between Pisces and Aquarius. Now, a cusp, when an age is 2,000 years, so the ages do not go like this. What they do is they go like this. So there's an overlap in there. When we move from Aries to Pisces, this was at the time that Jesus was born. So Aries was about the development of society and authority and all this sort of stuff. It's when we had the Egyptian Empire and the Greek Empire and all that sort of stuff. In the Bible, I'm not a Bible quoter, but these are some of the things that I know. I think it's in the last book of the Old Testament. It says Abraham killed the ram. The ram is symbolic of the age of Aquarius. And so even the Bible talks about astrology, even though the Christians don't want to talk about that stuff. So
And the ram is the symbol of the Aries as
that's
well.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we move forward on this, Jesus was born about 50 years into the cusp going into Pisces. And I'm not going to go into what his instructions were because they're very different than really in a mystical point of view than what the Christian point of view is. That's a whole different subject. Anyway, the Bible itself was written and released about 300 AD. So 250 years after Jesus lived, but it was at the end of the cusp between Aries and Pisces. So now we've moved into the age of Pisces. So now we're moving up. We've explored the world and we've explored what we can of the finite universe around us and all this sort of stuff. Now we're moving, thanks to the fifth dimension, we're now moving into the age of Aquarius. What Aquarius is primarily about is learning to synchronize the bigger mind. There's a lot of people say it's about putting the head and the heart together. No, you're staying too physical with doing that. We as human beings, to start with, we are not, this body is not me. It is the physical dimension that I carry around that helps me to interact in this particular dimension. We all are the soul within ourselves. And what we're learning now is how to work from the soul level. And the beauty of this is it gives us so much more power. One of my books I wrote is called Chakras Demystified. And so what I do in this book is I explain what the chakras are. Basically, they're BC hydro substations that we got little ones, and they all vibrate at different frequencies and very specific frequencies. Like the throat chakra is about communication. And so there's a vibration there that helps us to communicate because we speak. The pineal gland, which is our third eye, is part of the hypothalamus, and it's part of where we have a higher level of communication that we can sync psychically. When Rachel was talking to me, that would have been channeled through my pineal gland. Do you know that the pineal gland in the average human being today is about the size of a peanut?
Yes.
Over 100 years ago, they were the size of a walnut.
Wow.
Yes. And the reason for that is called atrophy. And this is one of my biggest concerns about what's going on in the world today is there is so much going on that is designed to atrophy the beautiful capabilities that human beings have. We spend too damn much time on these electronic things. We spend too much time watching TV. We've got our faces in cell phones. My friend and I were out for dinner the other night at a sushi place. And there was a nice family, two little kids, and the mom and dad come in and they get their sushi and they sit down. The two kids pop out their cell phones and they're staring like that. Mom and dad should be talking to those kids. We're not talking to each other anymore. We're not communicating anymore. We've got these damn electronic things in front of us all the time.
And we're not even looking at each other and making that eye contact with each other and the world around us. I mean, we have this gorgeous park here called Beacon Hill Park, and
Yes.
there's all kinds of things happening there with blossoms and the ponds and animals and peacocks, doing their mating rituals. And people are walking by on the pathway in their cell phones, not seeing anything else beyond that.
And that is causing atrophy. And we're basically one of the things that, in fact, they talk about it in Revelations. I believe we are in Revelations. I think that's what the cusp is. And what's going to happen is that should we make it through this transition, life will be more glorious because we'll learn to be soul-centered people. So what's happening is that the bigger forces of the world, the chemical companies and the petrochemical companies and the governments and all this sort of stuff, are fearful of losing control over the people. And we have become percentages of shares of big corporations. We're not human beings anymore. And they know that if they can keep us controlled and they can dumb us down and keep us from being healthy because there's big money in fixing people, they're going to keep making all their big money. But they don't stop to realize that at the end of it, all that money is going to be floating around out in space and they're going to be just as dead as the rest of us. And I'd
Yes,
hate to see what
absolutely.
Hmm?
and how 5G is counteracting the 5D energy as well.
I heard, I'm not an expert on medical stuff at all, or that type of energy, but I heard that the COVID virus is almost identical to 5G.
Really?
Yeah, and that really concerns me because I know myself, if I walk under the big power lines, I could feel where the field starts and where the field ends. And I have a really, really hard time walking through those fields because my energy is so big, and I'm so aware of it. And it's like I start vibrating from walking underneath these things. And so if the 5G can do that to us, I don't want to be a part of that.
Likewise, and I know what you mean. I feel that way, even being not even not quite eyesight of windmills.
Yeah,
The windmills, not the watermills. The
yeah.
windmills. It's such a high frequency, like my ears almost hurt. And I've heard a lot of people having ill health because of it. And we don't always recognize how our environment can impact us and our energy field, and how we may or may not be tuned into that, but it affects us greatly in all kinds of ways. And so, as you're saying, Monty, about all of these energies are changing, the world is changing, and there's counter forces and there's newer forces. How do we learn to practice discernment? How can we know what energy belongs to us, how we can shift energy and become empowered by our own energy to
Great
help us,
questions, Jen.
support us with all this going on?
Yeah, one of the absolutely first things that I tell people is get out in nature and become part of it. I studied medicinal herbology a number of years ago, and one of my big things when I go out for a walk is I'm always looking at the plants. And I was over at Tynehead Park in Surrey the other day, and I was over on this lookout, and I was looking down. I could identify every tree that was out there, and I knew about every tree. And so it gives me this connection, and I feel so belonging when I'm in nature like that. And it's, of course, what's really great about it is I can walk along and I know there's a peppercress, and I pick it up and eat it, or a chickweed or something like that. And it's really neat to be able to do that because I feel a part of it. And I really encourage people to do that. And go out, and there's wild roses out there. Stop and smell them. They're a wonderful fragrance, and phlox is so busy at this time of the year putting their fragrance out. So that's a big part of it. But it's also, one of the key things in learning to work with yourself is recognizing how you breathe. Breathing is absolutely the basis of how we exist on this planet. You can't go more than a minute without breathing, really. But you know that 99% of all people breathe wrong. So take a deep breath. This is your test for today. Take a deep breath and then let it out. Okay. What moved?
My chest, my spine, my head, my throat, my shoulders.
Yeah. See, you're breathing high. When we breathe, we need to move our belly. And
Yes.
with all the other stuff that you're talking about, the reason for that is your lungs have three layers in it, and the bottom layer is where all the toxins lie. And if you do not move your belly when you breathe, you don't get rid of those toxins. So every time you take a breath, your nice clean breath goes right back through the toxins again. And if your breath is toxified, how do you expect to be able to relax and have a clear head?
Right.
A
Right.
very simple thing like that. Same as drinking lots of water and so like that. But it's also about practicing being in your body. Most people, and everybody at some point is in their ego, in their head. One of the things about coming into the Aquarian age is we need to be able to move beyond our head. We need to be able to attune to the messengers in our bodies. That's why I wrote Chakras Demystified, so that people can understand. We have 7 major chakras in our bodies, and we have a couple of minor chakras, and then we have the star chakra above our head and the earth chakra below. This isn't woo-woo. This stuff is real. We can test this stuff. We know it's there. And they all vibrate at specific frequencies so that it's part of how we connect with the world. When two people fall in love, they don't just fall in love with their heart. They fall. The way that the relationship is determined is by what chakras they connect on.
Interesting.
Very rarely do people connect on all the major chakras at one time. So if you fall for somebody, and it's not really okay, let me say it this way. You connect with them on the heart, but you tend to connect with them in the throat and the pineal gland. The likelihood is you're going to have a very fun but intellectual relationship with them, that there'll be no physical involvement with it. You go the other way and say you don't connect with the heart and you only connect with the root chakra and the sacral chakra and the solar plexus. Well, actually, not the solar plexus, the adrenals. What you're going to have is a very sexual relationship, but it's going to have no meaning to it. The reason why I clarified with that, this is another issue that we need to clear up in the sacred in the sacred world. We refer to the adrenals as being the solar plexus. That is actually incorrect. And the heart is not where we connect to the world, the universe as a whole. The sacral chakra sits basically at the bottom. I know you can't see this on the screen, but it's basically at the bottom of the sternum. Okay, so it's in between the heart and the adrenals. The solar plexus is where we connect with the universe in whole. Like when you're talking about agape love, universal love, we're talking solar plexus. When you're talking romantic love, the heart's included in it, but it's a number of chakras. It's not just the heart. If you're only connected on the heart, you're going to sit there and smile at each other all day and nothing else is going to happen. So it's really important to understand what the chakras are, what they do, and how they play the role in the bigger picture. And also learning how to recognize when you're in your head, in your ego, and be able to step out of it, because you need to be able to get into your body in order to make good forward moving decisions. So I was given a technique a number of years ago. The crown chakra sits right in the center of the head here. When a baby is born, the skull looks like this. There's a space there. It's called the soft spot. So it sits like this. So over the next year, the baby's skull is going to go like this, and it's going to solidify that spot there. The reason why that is there is that when people are born, our soul enters the body through the crown chakra. We also, when we die, we leave through this crown chakra as well. So what happens is over the period of the year there, the pituitary gland is the master gland of the body. And so the information about what our life purpose is and all that sort of stuff is all contained into the pituitary gland. And that's why that stays open. Once that's closed, then that aspect of it's done. Your hard drive is filled up with that information. And then life goes on. You're already determining what your life is going to be like from the time of when the sperm and the egg hit each other. Your life has begun, and you start processing information from there, but you're doing it from inside your mother. And you pick up all the information. If she has an illness or she has some kind of a traumatic incident, while you are inside of her, you pick up on that information. So the information starts right from the beginning of conception, and it goes about to the 7th birthday. So it's approximately 8 years. So all that information is loaded into the pituitary gland. And for most people, and we've believed this for the last several thousand years, is that's in your hard drive. You're stuck with it. We now know, and this is part of moving into Aquarius, is that's not true at all. What it is it's part of the project that you need to work on to move on, so that being able to get out of the head and move into the body and be able to say, yeah, I know that my father was not just a very bad person. He was a person who wonderfully provided me and my siblings with the opportunity to learn in this lifetime and to grow from it. Now, I'm not really that thankful that he did what he did, and he certainly buggered up my sister's lives and my older brother's life. I'm second son, so I got the least of it. But the lessons that he offered, I may not have become aware of my intuitive side if he hadn't provided the environment for it. And I'm very thankful for that. And so we need to look at try and look at our lives as to how it operates according to what we believe, and then be first of all realize that isn't us, that is just stuff, and to be able to step back from that and say, well, you know what, I am worthy of love. I am worthy of loving. And it doesn't matter what happened to me in my childhood. I still, because I'm a human being, because I'm an animal, because I am created by this universal God, I am love personified.
Mm-hmm.
And same as all the other beliefs that we develop. And this is a lifelong process to be able to recognize and make changes in these. And this is what my passion is in life, is to help people to understand there are tools. Just learning how to breathe properly is a big step forward in being able to manage your life better.
Yes. Yes. And you mentioned children and childhood and the impact that can have in our life and how, we can turn that around. It doesn't mean that it's inevitably going to be a bad life per se. When children are born and for the first few years of their life, they're quite dependent on the adults around them.
Absolutely.
And so, what do you think, Monty, is something that we can support their growth in their process and nurture their needs? What do you feel that children would need to live a healthy and more fulfilling life? What can we do to support that?
That's what my whole book, Healthy Kids Need Three Things, is about.
Yes.
First of all, it's understanding that we need to be examples to our children. And I remember I was over in North Vancouver one day working, and I was looking up the street, and there was a man riding a bicycle coming down a hill. And behind him, about 20 feet, was his son. And they get to the bottom of the hill. What did they do? Boot right through the stop sign across a busy street. Son's right behind him. Now, what's going to happen if one day son does the same thing and he gets hit by a car? What's dad going to think? Oh, you stupid kid. Why did you do that? Dad, you set the example.
Mm.
And so we need to be more cognizant of how we perceive life and how we're doing life, and make sure that we are setting an example for our children that is more in line with the way that we believe they should be operating. And we one of the things, and it really, really annoys me in this day and age, is we have too much outside influence going on in how people should be raised. This business about there being multiple genders and all this stuff is just created to cause confusion. The universe only sees polarity as two. To create electricity, you have a electron and a proton, and the two of those together create electricity. You can't take anything else and put it in there to make it any different. It does not work. It's the same thing. Every animal that exists is male and female. The only way they work. Now, how you want to play that out in your life, whether you want to be homosexual or asexual or non-sexual or whatever, that's your business. But the fact is that it was a man and woman created you, and you, if you have kids, you did it with a person of the opposite sex. And we need to learn that as we're progressing through this stuff, we are in the first time in the light of mankind where we have a strong enough safety net that we have moved beyond survival. And we now have the capacity to thrive. The problem is we're in a deep swimming pool and we don't know how to swim. And so we've got all these theoretical lifeguards out there throwing us all these lifesavers that sound good on paper, but are they realistic? And so we as parents, for ourselves and for our children, we need to be able to step back and say, does this really make sense? And I'm not just talking about the gender issue. There's all kinds of stuff. The governments of today are handing us so much garbage that we need to be able to discern what we feel as individuals is correct and teach our children that and move forward with it. This is a question I ask every person. I'm going to ask you. What is the number one thing that all people crave?
Love,
Wrong,
understanding.
wrong.
Tell us,
Safety.
Monty. Safety.
Safety.
Yes, this is true. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
The reason why I bring that up is because love is innate.
Hmm.
We always have love. But the
Hmm.
problem is that we learn love in our childhood. And so if we come from a very dysfunctional family, how we learn love is very dysfunctional until
Hmm.
we smarten up and realize that this doesn't work and we're going to do it better. And so with safety, safety is a feature that God created in us. It was interesting when I first wrote Embracing the Blend, there I had a byline in the back. It said, we were created in safety, and it now is the time to return. When I rewrote the book in 2010, a third line got added to it. So now it's a tri-line. So it's we were created in safety now, and now is we were created in, we were born into safety, then created trained out of it. We were born into safety and trained out of it. Now is the time to return.
Mm.
And for example, the difference between a person that is really good at karate and a karate master is his ability to attune himself to safety.
Mm.
Because if you're in your body and you are functioning from in your body instead of in your head, you have the advantage. And that's what we need people to understand, is that when you do things, do it from inside your body and learn to work from inside your body. Learn to breathe yourself into your body. And you'll be so much more functional, so much happier, and so much more trusting of the universe.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That's such a beautiful clarification and a stronger depth of understanding that
Mm,
even though we may feel like we're craving, for example, love, understanding, or anything else, that underneath all of that, there's that safety, the need for safety, to feel safe
absolutely.
and to feel secure.
Yeah.
And
Sorry,
yeah,
just
go
to
ahead.
learn the difference between being truly safe and coping.
Yes.
Big
Right.
difference.
And so share a little bit about that.
Well, the medical industry.
Mm.
We take pills in order to, like we take aspirin to get rid of a headache. How about if we stop and listen to our body and say, okay, why do I have a headache? And deal with the issue first. And then if you still need to take an aspirin to get your headache cured, fine. If you ever want to be cured of using pharmaceuticals, watch Me TV.
Mm.
Every commercial that they have on there, or almost all of them, is all about these wonderful pharmaceuticals that have got more side effects than they do benefit.
Hmm.
But that's what they try to sell us on. So it's by understanding that when we have an issue in our body, that when we have a pain or whatever like that, instead of just immediately taking something to alleviate that, that's coping. Stop and ask it, what is it about that particular part of our body that is craving the attention, and what do we need to do about it? Louise Hay is one of the foremost leaders in this, in her book, You Can Heal Your Life. She's got this great big, have you familiar with that book?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
thought so.
Hmm.
She's got that chart in it. So you look up what's going on here. Okay. Oh, no, there's what the emotional issue that's going on with it. And here is um, the affirmation to use with it. And I tell you, those things work.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for them to work, you have to be willing to allow them to work. And that means letting yourself go into true safety. If you're going to fight them, you're going to stay in coping and dysfunction. And I've seen people walk away from diseases. There is no such thing as an incurable disease, except one that says, I won't change my mind. That's the only thing that's
Uh,
incurable.
good one, Monty. Wow, so much, so many golden nuggets shared here today. It's been incredible, and I love your fluidity and talking about it all. And yeah, there's some things that people may or may not agree with, and all of it is coming from a place of love and understanding and how you see the world. And we all have a way of seeing it, and that can change too. As you say, changing our mind changes everything around us.
Yeah,
How we show up for ourselves, the world, our children makes a difference. As you said, being the best version of ourselves that we can be. When we know better, we do better, but doing our best to show up as our best and be that role model to inspire our children, our descendants by living our life in the best way as we aspire to live or differently the way our ancestors did,
Yeah.
and to learn from all of that. All of it is a learning experience, all of it is part of our journey, and to open to trusting what comes up and shows up in our life to move through, to become part of our journey and recognize it as
Yeah.
part of our journey as you have. And so, how can people get in touch with you, Monty, if they want to explore some of these concepts more, or be able to work with you? Is there a way to connect?
Yeah, through my website, the powerfulme.com. I am planning sometime this year. I've had a very, very busy 2023 in my regular job this year, so I haven't been able to do it. But I'm going to be offering some workshops related to this and some other subjects. I have all kinds of really neat little workshops that I want to do, but my main focus is on helping people to understand the importance of understanding your own relationship with yourself and however you perceive the universe, and how you transmit that to your children,
Mm,
because
mhm.
we need the children to have it. If we are going to continue to exist on this planet and flourish, it's up to us to raise our children in the best way possible, according to the way that we feel that it needs to be done. I am not one of these evangelists that says that you have to do it this way. No, you need to become aware of yourself and how you feel that you need to function in your life to get the best life for you. And you need to teach your children that.
Yes.
And to teach children, raising children is 168 hours a week job.
And you have a special book that you're so generously offering everyone
Mhm.
about the three things that children need, healthy children need.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that book, and everyone know that we're going to put that link for your free copy in the show notes, along with the ways to connect with Monty as well. So, what is this book, Monty?
So the
In
book
case
is
people
called
read
Healthy
it.
Children Only Need Three Things. And the reason I wrote it, and again, I'm spurred on by what happened to me in my childhood.
Mm,
And I only realized here a couple of months ago, I was doing a workshop and I thought that I was pretty secure in the world, whatever like that. My biggest coping mechanism that I had when I was a child was I stayed in the bedroom and stayed out of sight.
mm.
And I've come to realize in the last couple of months, I'm 71 years old, and I realized I'm still doing it.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I really I spent last winter in Penticton. I was house sitting up there, and I said, okay, when I go to Penticton, I am going to go meet some people, and when I meet them, I'm going to tell them I am going to talk straightforward to you. I'm going to tell you my truth. I want the same from you. I don't want any bullshit. I want the truth. Then we can have a true conversation. It worked fabulously. So many people that I said that to were so happy to be able to just converse with each other.
Mm,
We didn't have to play the games first.
mhm.
And so this is part of what I want to help people to be able to do it, and to learn how do you do that with your children, and understanding the stages of growing up, like those noises that babies make are a language, and we need to look at them as a language. The baby's trying to tell you something. Listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. They can't give you the Gettysburg Address because they don't know it.
Right.
Yeah, so listen to what they're saying, and if they can't do it with words, they're going to do it with their bodies. They're going to do crying is a form of language,
Mhm.
and so I'm going to put together a workshop about helping people to understand this sort of stuff and how to implement it in your life, and how to be able to use techniques from the psychic side that will help you with your children. Like I lived in a condo in Burnaby, and there was one family had a young baby, and inevitably at nighttime it would start crying, and so I would wake up because the baby was crying, and I would listen to it, and I would try to determine what it was that the baby was trying to say. If it was a wet diaper, there wasn't anything that I could do with the baby itself. I would be trying to yell at the parents to get in there and get the baby changed. But there were times the baby would just be making noises. Maybe it got scared or had a bad dream or something like that. So what I would do was I'd never bet the baby. I'd visualize the baby and I would pat its back. and I would just keep going like this on its back.
Mhm.
Within 2 minutes, that baby was sound asleep.
Wow.
Yeah, it works great on pets too.
Yes.
I
I
befuddled a German
imagine
Shepherd
so.
one day. He could not figure out what the heck was going on. He was trying to be tough with me, and all he could feel was that he wanted to lay down and go to sleep.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm going to uh, work on getting these workshops out, hopefully sometime this year. And and the other thing is, if you want to get hold of me by email, I don't mind. I don't want any pranksters or business opportunities and stuff. But it's lifeforcecreative@gmail.com is my email address. But you can
okay.
get hold of me through my website. It's a complex website. It combines all my websites into one now, and powerfulme.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Monty. And of course, that link will be in the show notes. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us, Monty, and sharing all that you did.
It's
And
fun.
also thank each and every one of you that have been tuning in as well. We honor you and we hope you'll stick around and subscribe and keep coming back because every week is something special to be shared and to tune in some more into your divine self and your divine nature. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Monty.
And thank you too, Jennifer. And thank you, everybody that listens to this. And I wish you all the best life possible.